your wife at, bud? Where's your wife at?
She's dead on the floor in that room.
Clear. Hey.
That's mom.
That's mom. Yeah.
Today we are going to be talking about a pretty recent case. I'm actually filming this video on Wednesday, and the sentencing for this case happened on Monday. And when all the details came out about this case, it is insane. This case is so evil, so diabolical. Like, the title does not deceive. And so this case has definitely been on my radar recently, but ever since they did the sentencing on Monday, I knew I just had to tell someone about this story, and no one in my life loves true crime as much as you do. So without further ado, let's get into today's case, the case of Ashley Smiley. But before getting into all that, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's episode, BOMBAS. BOMBAS is a comfort-focused premium basics brand with a mission to help those in need. Socks, t-shirts, and underwear are actually the top 3 most requested clothing items at homeless shelters, so Bomba took that and decided to donate a pair of socks, a t-shirt, or underwear to a person in need with every purchase made. And so far, Bombas has already donated over 100 million clothing items to people in need. Bombas socks are not like any sort of socks that you've ever worn. They have built-in arch support, no annoying toe seams, as well as socks for every occasion: hiking, running, and even special occasions. And Bombas doesn't just sell socks, they also sell comfortable t-shirts, underwear, and slippers, as well as bralettes, to which I'm actually wearing their bralette right now. There are absolutely no seams in this shirt. Sometimes it's very easy for your bra to be seen in the back, but when wearing Bombas bralettes, you can't see a thing. Like, it literally just melts right into your skin. I also picked up 3 pairs of socks from Bombas that I have been absolutely loving, especially these 2 cute socks. They are the lightweight quarter socks in black and pink and have little bows on the back of the ankle. And oh my god, I've just been wearing these with every single pair of shoes I have because I feel like it just adds such a cute flair to your outfit. I also purchased their red modern rib socks as well that are just as comfortable, and I've been wearing these with a lot of my red shoes to once again just spice up any normal outfit. Overall, I am just obsessed with Bombas, and I know you will be too. And if you go to bombas.com/haileyelizabeth and use my code Haley20 at checkout, new customers will get 20% off their purchase at Bombas. Feel good and do good knowing that your purchase is doing some real good by going to bombas.com/haileyelizabeth and using my code Haley20 at checkout for new customers to get 20% off their order. And once again, thank you so much to Bombas for sponsoring today's video. Now back to your video. Carly Gregg was born in Flowood, Mississippi, with her mom Ashley Gregg and her father Kevin Gregg. Growing up though, it was mostly just Ashley and Carly because her father Kevin really wasn't in the picture. Ashley and Kevin did go on to have a second child named Natalie, but unfortunately this child had passed away at just 7 months old due to genetic abnormalities. Carly's biological father, Kevin, was said to be not a great father figure. He was an alcohol and drug abuser as well as being physically abusive, and Ashley had even filed 2 police reports against Kevin and did not get along with him at all. And actually, at the time of the crime, Ashley was in the middle of a custody battle between her and Kevin because she was trying to take away his visitation rights. So Carly, growing up, was an only child, but she was extremely smart and even skipped a grade. And on top of skipping a grade, she also took the ACT exam at the age of 13 and scored a 30. And for reference, for people who don't know the scoring system of the ACT is very similar to an SAT, if you guys have ever taken that. But basically, a perfect score in the ACT is a 36, and at the age of 13, Carly scored a 30. So she was literally 6 points away from scoring a perfect score. She scored the same exact score that a 16-year-old would get, but after months and months of like preparation education and studying. She scored a 91% in English, a 95% in math, an 88% in reading, and a 94% in science. And then also at the age of 13, in the spring of 2019, that's when Ashley would go on to meet a man by the name of Heath Smiley, who was a 45-year-old physical therapist assistant. The two would later get married in June of 2020, and although Carly was very smart at such a young age, she was also interested in things like violence and Swiss knives. In 7th grade, she actually got in trouble at school for bringing a Swiss knife and was sent to an alternative school for troubled kids for about 6 months until the other school had let her back in. She later attended Northwest Rankin High School in Brandon, Mississippi, which was about 10 minutes away from her home in Flowood, but even in high school, she was an amazing student. And actually, in the year of 2022, she had won Student of the Year. And ironically, Carly's mother, Ashley Smiley, was actually a geometry teacher at the high school that Carly attended. And so you would think that maybe having your parent work at school would be a little bit of like a fun thing. Like you would literally just see your mom walking around in between classes. You can talk to her, like get a ride from her. But surprisingly, it was quite the opposite for Carly and Ashley, because outside of school, they were having lots of problems at home. Because unfortunately at school, Carly was kind of going through a lot. Although she was the smartest in her class, she was also the youngest in her class. So a lot of people tended to take advantage of that, and they would make her do like their schoolwork, their homework, give them homework answers, help with projects. And so not just in school was Carly having problems. Her and her mother Ashley tended to get into a lot of arguments and disagreements because of Carly's behavior. There was one instance, for example, where Carly was caught helping the whole class cheat on a test that they had, where basically she had went into the teacher's computer and taken pictures of the test answers, and then she had given those test answers to a couple of kids in the class, but eventually those people tended to, you know, give those answers to other people and then give those answers to other people until it eventually slipped up and Carly was caught. So this was an example of an argument that they would get into. Apparently at the time, Carly also had a boyfriend by the name of Anthony, and they were having a little bit of questionable conversations. And so then that's when Ashley had told Carly that she doesn't think it's a good idea that she sees Anthony anymore because she's so young, and basically just told her that she shouldn't focus on boys right now. She should instead just focus on her studies. And this actually led Carly to break up with her boyfriend Anthony. But at the end of the day, teenagers are going to do whatever they want to do, because this breakup did not last for long. As I said, Ashley literally worked at the school that Carly went to. So Ashley would see Carly and Anthony just holding hands around school very openly together. And then at that point, Ashley just decided to let it go and was like, you know what? She's just going to do what she wants to do. It's not that big of a deal. She just kind of trusted her daughter a little bit and was like, okay, you know, she's smart and I trust that she's smart. Ashley also kept parental controls on Carly's devices, such as setting like time limits on all of her apps. She also restricted Carly from having things like TikTok, as well as making Carly put her phone away during bedtime out of fear that she would just like stay up late on her phone. So before she went to bed, she would either have to charge it in the kitchen or she would charge it on her mom's nightside table. And Carly's phone would also often be checked because Ashley had actually found out that Carly was trying to contact her biological father because of like the whole custody battle right now and Ashley wanting to take visitation rights away. Ashley just didn't believe that Carly's biological father was a good role model for her because, as I said, he was an alcohol and drug abuser. He was also very physically abusive. And so when she found out that Carly started to talk to him behind her back, that's when she started to put even more rules on the house. But with more rules around the house just made Carly want to rebel even more. And although it was a great thing that Carly was extremely smart enough to even skip a grade, unfortunately, since she was able to skip a grade, that also meant that she was the youngest in her class. And so so even though she was only 14, a lot of kids in her class were either 15, mostly 16. And around 16 years old is like the typical rebellious age where kids start doing things such as smoking weed, smoking nicotine, drinking, things like that. And that is sort of the crowd that Carly started to fall herself into. So she started doing things, and she also had a nicotine vape as well as weed carts that she had hid from her mom in her room. And unfortunately, on top of all of her drug issues, she also had mental issues as well. She was not in a good place, and a lot of her friends would go on to say that Carly during this time even began cutting her thighs. Ashley eventually found out about this and told Carly to go to therapy for anxiety and stress, which she did for a little while, but unfortunately she never followed through with it. Later down the line, Carly was actually given antipsychotics, but then switched her medication to Lexapro, which is a medication mostly used for depression. But during the trial, they also said this specific thing about Lexapro that I thought was like interesting, that usually whenever doctors, like, it's unfortunate, but usually whenever doctors don't really know what's wrong with you or like why exactly you're acting and thinking the way that you are, Lexapro tends to be just like a medicine that people give you of like, let's hope this works sort of medicine. And it's believed that during this time, that's kind of why they switched her over to Lexapro, because they thought that she had these certain mental issues, but when her antipsychotics weren't kicking in, they switched her over to Lexapro as like a hope this works out. And ironically, she had also switched to Lexapro 5 days before the crime. On the morning of the crime, it was a pretty normal day for the family. Ashley and Carly would actually ride together to school, and so they got ready for school, and then shortly after they left, that's when her stepdad Heath was getting ready for work, to which he usually leaves a couple minutes after them every morning. People who saw Carly and Ashley that day said that nothing was really off or weird about them. They were kind of interacting with each other quite normally. And so then later on that day after school, that's when Carly and Ashley came home while the stepdad Heath was still at work, but was about to be home in about 30 minutes. And their after school routine was pretty basic. Every single day, Carly would come home from school and go out and walk her dogs for a little bit, to which she had either 2 or 3 dogs. But while Carly was outside, that's when Ashley would take this time to go to Carly's room to do just a quick search round after a very concerning comment she had heard from a student who was also a friend of Carly's that day at school. Apparently that day at school, a friend of Carly's had went up to Ashley, Carly's mom, and basically just told her that she was really concerned for Carly because, as I said, during this time, Carly was kind of involving herself into some very dangerous territory, such as drinking and smoking. Carly started to do it a bit too often that made this friend very concerned for her. She had to have her fix of nicotine and weed every single day and didn't know how to function without either of them. And it was getting to the point where this friend believed that Carly might have an addiction to it. And so because of this friend kind of brought Ashley's attention to all of this because he was scared for Carly. He thought that she was going down a wrong path. With how smart Carly is, why would he just sit back and watch her waste her life away? He wanted to like do something to help her. And so after hearing this very concerning information, that's when Ashley went home, and then during their typical routine where Carly would go outside and take the dog, Ashley took this opportunity to go into Carly's room. Lo and behold, Ashley had found 4 vapes in her room. And so like every other mother, when seeing this, she was scared for Carly because Carly was only 15 years old and this stuff is addictive. And so of course she didn't want her daughter, with all the potential that she had, to be steered off into the wrong direction. And so like any other mother, she got mad at this. She was disappointed. Even from hearing like from Carly's friends that Carly may have a problem, this was extremely serious, and maybe Carly was going through something. Maybe she needed extra help. And then shortly after this, that's when Carly came back home from walking the dogs, and immediately upon walking back into her bedroom, she sees her mom sitting on the bed with the 4 vapes in her hand. And the next part of this is so scaringly fast. There is footage of this that I'm going to show, not like footage of the actual crime, but it's actually a security camera that they had in the kitchen. After Carly sees her mom with the vapes in her hand, I don't think much of a conversation is had before Carly immediately leaves her room, walks to her parents' bedroom, opens up her mom's nightstand that had a gun inside that Ashley kept for intruders and emergencies. And that's when Carly would grab the .38 pistol revolver, walk back into her bedroom, and shoot her mom in the face 3 times, twice in the middle of her face and once in the chin. Now, there was a security camera in the kitchen, and I will, warn you, because you can hear the screams for a second and you do hear the gunshots, although you don't see anything. But it is just so scary to watch this and see how fast everything happened. Everything about that clip is so eerie, from the moment of her grabbing the gun, hearing the shots, and then seeing even the dogs. After shooting her mom 3 times, that's when Carly would walk into the kitchen and grab a phone that was on the counter that belonged to her mom. And her next course of action was, now that she killed her mom, she had plans on killing her stepdad as well. So from her mom's phone, she would then text her stepdad saying, quote, "You almost home, honey?" sent at 4:14 p.m. And then after that, Heath would respond with, quote, "No, I'll be here for a little bit." Ashley, aka Carly, responds with a thumbs up emoji. It was at this time where Carly would then start going on her own phone and start texting a bunch of her friends saying that she was freaking out, she had an emergency, and something really, really bad happened. A lot of her friends were also very young, so they didn't have like cars or anything to drive to her house. So they were just asking her questions, what's going on, what's happening? And she would respond with very bland answers. There was actually one text message conversation that she had with a friend where the friend had told her, whatever it is, call the police, and Carly just responds with no. And that's it. But actually, one of her friends, to which, since she is a minor, she's not named in the case, so for the video, we're just gonna call her Brittany. So Carly would then call her friend Brittany and tell her that she was really going through something and she needed some help. And so this friend ended up actually coming over to Carly's house, to which, as I said, most of her friends didn't have cars. So Brittany's dad had drove Brittany to Carly's house. And then when Brittany came over, from Brittany's story, she says that when she walked through the door, she just saw Carly in the middle of the living room singing and playing with her dogs. And so she was a bit confused, this doesn't really seem like an emergency. And that was until Carly looked up and said to her, quote, Do you get squeamish around dead bodies? And then from there, that's when Carly walked her friend Brittany to her room and showed Brittany her mom's dead body lying on the floor. She tried to tell this friend, I'm actually the one that did it, and even showed her the gun that she used to kill her mom with, and showed her that in the gun there was 6 rounds and 3 of them had already been shot off. And Carly tells Brittany that the other 3 she's saving for when her stepdad gets home. Carly then goes on to say that her stepdad will probably be home any second, and if Brittany wanted to go out in the backyard and hang out there for a while Carly was inside killing her stepdad. Now Brittany to this ended up saying okay, and then went outside and actually waited. Now a lot of people were contemplating why this was. Brittany was the same age as Carly. She was a 15-year-old girl. And if someone, anyone really, shows you a dead body with a gun in their hand because they just committed that and then they plan on killing another person, this person clearly isn't in their right mind, and the last thing that you should be doing is arguing with them at all or yelling at them. Like, they literally have a gun in their hand. They could kill you at any second. At that point, it's just safest to do whatever they say. And from Brittany's story, she would go on to say that when she went outside, she sat there for a little bit until on the inside of the house, she heard 1 gunshot go off, a bunch of screaming, and then 2 more gunshots go off. But she also heard a bunch of rustling coming inside as if her stepdad was fighting her. After about a minute, that's when Carly ran outside into the backyard and told Brittany, quote, "Run," and then they hopped over the fence and ran away. From there, Brittany ended up just running back to her house, while Carly ended up running 2 miles away from her home trying to flee the scene. Now, what was happening inside of the house from the stepdad's perspective, he goes on to say that when he opened up the front door, he was immediately met with Carly in front of his face about a foot away with a gun to his face. So he was able to move out of the way pretty quickly to where a bullet had just grazed his shoulder while he wrestled for the gun out of Carly's hands. Within this wrestle, there was 2 shots that have also gone off, but thankfully none of these 2 bullets had actually hit Heath. And then once Carly found out that she was out of rounds from the gun, she immediately just dropped the gun and ran out the backyard and hopped over the fence. Heath goes on to say that during the struggle, once Carly found out that she was out of rounds, she immediately dropped the gun and fell on the floor and started to kind of kick her feet backwards as she was screaming and crying at him. And the stepdad explains it that it looked as if Carly had just seen a demon. And also from the stepfather's story, he goes on to say that at first he didn't know that Carly had murdered his wife or her mom yet. He just walked in the door and saw Carly with a gun. So he assumed that maybe Carly had an encounter with an intruder and there was possibly an intruder still in the house and she accidentally shot him thinking that he was an intruder or something like that. And so immediately after Carly had ran away, that's when he called the police because he had just been grazed by a bullet and needed help. And as he was on the phone with the police, that's when he would search around the home trying to see if the intruder was still inside. But unfortunately, during this 911 call is when Heath actually discovers the body of Ashley lying on the floor in Carly's room with a towel over her face.
Okay, sir. Where's your wife? She's dead on the floor of my stepdaughter's room. What's your wife's name? Ashley Smiley. Ashley Smiley.
When the police show up to the scene, that's when they discover Heath crawling through the front door, still in shock of what he just saw. He tries to scramble to tell the police a description of what Carly looked like and that she had run away, so she probably wasn't too far away. When the police investigate the scene, they end up finding Ashley.
That's mom.
That's mom. Yeah.
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 And then they immediately take Heath to the hospital while they investigate the rest of the scene. They discover that in the garage there actually was a security camera, and on that security camera it caught the audio of the actual occurrence between Heath and Carly. As well as Carly and her friend running away. Shortly after this, that's when Carly was found about 2 miles away, just walking around on the side of the street, and she was immediately arrested. During Carly's interrogation, that's when police find out that her and her family actually had a lot of issues. Friends of Carly's at school would actually go on to say that there had been multiple occasions where Carly had said that she wanted to kill her mom. The friend, Brittany, that saw the body that day actually later told her dad when she came home, and then that night both of them went to the sheriff's office to tell her side of the story. And in her statement, she would actually say, quote, blank stated that when she had arrived at Carly's residence that Carly had already killed her mother. Blank stated that Carly asked if she wanted to wait outside and that her stepdad, Heath Smiley, was about to be home. Blank stated that she waited outside for a short time after Heath returned home, then she heard 3 gunshots. Blank stated that Carly ran out the door into the backyard and the both climbed over the fence and ran from the scene. Police also spoke to her other friends and said that Carly hated both her mom and her dad. She felt that her mom was very controlling and even put cameras inside of the house to watch Carly, as well as other sources say that she just put the cameras in the house for security reasons and also out of safety for Carly's biological father, Kevin. Friends of Carly would also go on to say that Carly's stepdad supposedly abused her in some way of either sexual or physical. And when looking through Carly's records, they would find that there were a lot of medications that she was under, as I said, including Lexapro. So Carly, upon her arrest, said that she started to hear voices and had thoughts of harming herself. But for some reason, and this is crazy, her defense team was trying to plead the insanity plea. Okay, if you want to plead the insanity plea, then can you show us her medical records to prove that she is, criminally insane? But ironically, they refused the entire trial to hand over her medical records, and so instead of pleading the insanity plea, she just pled not guilty. At the trial, police would show all of the police body cam footage, including the footage of Heath, to which Carly had sobbed the entire time.
Sheriff's office! Hey, come outside for a minute. Hey, come here. Hey, where's your wife at, bud? Where's your wife at?
She's dead on the floor in that room.
She's where?
They also showed footage of Ashley being discovered in Carly's room, to which Carly, weirdly, barely sheds a tear to that. Heath also showed up in court to testify and would talk about the moment that he found Ashley's body. He said that with the way Carly was reacting, he thought that maybe someone had broken in or they were trying to catch an intruder, and said that Carly moved extremely fast and believes that the whole occurrence only happened in 30 seconds. Once Carly ran off, he knew that he was hurt and wasn't able to catch her, so he was still thinking that there was an intruder, and that's when he started walking around and called the police, but then unfortunately discovered Ashley's body. He said that he ran over to her, checked her pulse, and then slowly removed the towel off of her face to reveal her mutilated face. Carly's friend also showed up to court to testify as well and believed that Carly was going through a lot lot of problems. And the friend that actually went up to Ashley to talk about his concerns about Carly's behavior testified in court and said that he believed Carly was going through a really rough time. She was smoking a lot of weed, nicotine vapes, keeping burner phones from her mom, and this friend just believed that Carly was going down a really rough path and didn't know who to talk to because every time he brought it up to Carly, it was always a big fight and she didn't really want to listen to it. So this friend felt a little helpless and felt like maybe going to Ashley was the right thing to do. And in the end, with all of the given evidence and testimony as well as video footage, that's when the court would come to a decision and sentence Carly to life in prison without possibility of parole.
Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant Carly Madison Gregg guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant Carly Madison Gregg guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant Carly Madison Gregg guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Please be seated, Ms. Gregg. First-degree murder is charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? You got to answer out loud, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Yes.
On the back row, sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? That verdict is proper and unanimous. As to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant Carly Madison Gregg guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Beginning on the first row, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Yes,
Sir, is that your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, is that your verdict? Sir, is that your verdict?
She was sentenced a life sentence for murder, a life sentence for attempted murder, and an additional 10 years for tampering with evidence. The defense actually tried to get Carly a life sentence with possibility of parole, but this attempt was never accepted. And yeah, that is the end of today's case. As for Carly today, as I said, this sentencing literally happened just a couple days ago, so she's probably still in like her first couple days of prison. If you guys found this case interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I would also love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on the case below. Do you think that Carly deserved a life sentence? Because that was a big controversial point in this case. A lot of people believe that since she was so young, she didn't deserve such an outrageous sentence. A lot of people believe that maybe there was time for her to redeem herself. Maybe she really just was going through mental issues that she needed to work through. So a lot of people found the life sentence to be a little bit harsh. A lot of people also tried to justify her actions, which is crazy to me. They tried to claim that since she lived in a very controlling household, that possibly she did what she did as a way to break herself out of that. But at the end of the day, like, it kind of seemed as if her mom finding the vapes was her last straw. But I feel like it's also kind of a universal experience as a teenager to be caught with something that you shouldn't have, such as like alcohol or weed. A lot of people don't go and grab a gun and then kill their parents for it. A lot of people usually just accept the punishment and move on. But in this case, Carly reacted very, very violent and very scary. And so a lot of people said that due to her reaction in that moment, she should have a life sentence. She is probably going to be a danger to society. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about that. What do you think led her to do what she did? Do you think that this was her final straw, or do you think that this was something that she was planning on doing? But yeah, that is all for me. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day today. I don't know, I kind of went for a very Lana Del Rey, Priscilla Presley sort of eyeliner look. I've never done this sort of eyeliner look, but I kind of like it. I don't know. But yeah, that is all for me. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day today. Make sure to go outside today, get some fresh air, drink your water, and as always, I love you, I love you, I love you, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!